Most people never negotiate their salary. They get an offer, they feel relieved and grateful, and they say yes. And I get it, negotiating feels uncomfortable. It feels risky. You're worried about seeming greedy, or coming off as difficult, or worse, having the offer pulled entirely. But here's what that decision actually costs you. If you accept a job at $55,000 when you could have negotiated to $60,000, that's $5,000 a year. Over a 30-year career, assuming your raises are based on that starting salary, that single decision, that one moment where you said yes instead of asking, can cost you $500,000 or more in lifetime earnings. Not because you're underpaid throughout your career, but because your base started lower, and every raise, bonus, and future job offer is anchored to it. The fear of asking costs you far more than asking ever will. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to negotiate your salary, even if you've never done it before and even if you feel completely terrified. We're going to cover how to figure out what you're actually worth, when and how to bring it up, the exact words to use, and what to do if they say no or push back. This works whether you're negotiating a new job offer, asking for a raise at your current job, or anything in between. Let's start with the foundation, knowing your number. Before you negotiate, you need to know what the market actually pays for your role, in your location, at your level of experience. This is called your market value, and you cannot negotiate effectively without it. Here's how to find it. Use at least 3 sources. Start with Glassdoor, search for your exact job title, filter by city, and look at the salary ranges reported by real employees. Then check LinkedIn Salary, which pulls from LinkedIn profiles. Then look at levels.fyi if you're in tech, or Bureau of Labor Statistics data if you want government numbers. When you compare across sources, ignore the extreme outliers and look at the middle range. If data across multiple sites shows your role paying $68,000 to $82,000, your target range is somewhere in that band. Note your experience level. If you have 3 years of experience and the role typically goes to 2 to 5 years, you're in the middle of that range, not the bottom. Write down a specific number. Not a range, a number. You'll use ranges strategically during the actual negotiation, but you need to know your anchor point first. Now let's talk about timing. There are 2 main situations where you negotiate, during a job offer, and when asking for a raise at your current job. For a job offer, the best moment to negotiate is after you receive the written offer and before you formally accept. You already have leverage at this point, they want you, they've already invested time in the hiring process, and they're not going to pull the offer because you asked politely. That almost never happens. Companies expect negotiation. Many HR departments build buffer into their first offer specifically because they know candidates will ask. For a raise at your current job, timing matters differently. Don't ask right after a bad quarter or when your company just announced layoffs. The best window is right after a visible win, you shipped a project, landed a client, got positive feedback on a performance review, or during your annual review cycle when the company is already discussing compensation. Give yourself a few weeks lead time to have the conversation before the final decisions are made. Here's the biggest mistake people make, negotiating over email or text. Don't. Email is easy to ignore, easy to misread, and removes the human element that makes negotiation work. Do it over a phone call or video call, in person if possible. When you're ready to negotiate, here's a structure that works. Start by expressing genuine enthusiasm. Make it clear you want this job. Then present your number with confidence and a brief reason. Then stop talking and let them respond. The silence after you state your number is the hardest part. Most people fill it by immediately backing down or apologizing. Don't. Just wait. Here's an example of what that sounds like. You would say something like, "I'm really excited about this role, the team and the direction of the company both feel like a great fit. Based on my research and my experience with specific thing you bring, I was expecting something closer to $72,000. Is there flexibility there?" That's it. You're not demanding. You're not threatening. You're asking a professional question with a professional anchor. and now the ball is in their court. Let's talk about what happens next, because it rarely goes exactly how you expect. Scenario 1, they say yes, or they come up. This happens more often than people think. Sometimes they just say, "Let me check with the hiring manager and come back to you," and they come back with $70,000 instead of $67,000. At that point, you decide whether that's acceptable or whether you want to push once more. Pushing twice is fine. Pushing 3 times starts to feel like you're stalling. Scenario 2, they say the budget is fixed. This is where most people give up. But the budget is fixed usually means the base salary is fixed, not that everything is fixed. Ask about a signing bonus. Ask about an accelerated performance review, where instead of waiting 12 months for your first raise, you get reviewed at 6 months. Ask about extra vacation days, remote work flexibility, a professional development budget, or equity. These things often have different budget lines than base salary, and they have real financial value. 1 extra week of vacation is worth roughly 2% of your salary. A $5,000 signing bonus is $5,000 right now. Scenario 3, they push back and ask you to justify your number. This is actually a good sign, they're engaging, not shutting you down. Your answer should reference the market data you pulled. Something like, "I looked at Glassdoor and LinkedIn salary for this role in this city, and the range I saw was $68,000 to $83,000. With my background in relevant experience, I think $72,000 is a reasonable ask." You don't need to apologize. You don't need to say, "I'm sorry, I know that might be too high." Data is data. You're citing sources. That's professional, not pushy. One more thing about the psychology of negotiation. A lot of people feel like they're being greedy when they ask for more. But think about what's actually happening. You're entering a professional relationship. The company has a budget for this role. They want to hire the best person they can for the lowest price they can. That's not malicious, it's just how business works. And the same logic applies to you. You want to be paid fairly for the value you bring. Both parties have competing interests, and negotiation is how you find the number that works for both. When you negotiate, you're not taking advantage of anyone. You're participating in a normal part of the job market that the company already expects and is prepared for. The discomfort you feel is real, but it's not evidence that you're doing something wrong. For current job raises, the approach is similar but requires a bit more preparation. You're not responding to an offer, you're initiating the conversation. That means you need to build a case. Before you go into the meeting, document your contributions from the past 12 months. Not vague things like "I worked hard," specific things. A project you delivered. Revenue you helped bring in or protect. A process you improved. A problem you solved that saved time or money. The more concrete, the better. You want your manager to be able to say yes to you and then explain that yes to their own manager. When you go in, lead with the relationship and your commitment to the company. Then present your case. Then ask for the number. Something like, "I've really valued being part of this team and I'm committed to where we're going. Over the past year, I've done X, Y, and Z, and I've done some research on market rates for this role. I'd like to discuss moving my compensation to $X. Is that something we can make happen?" Then wait. If they say it's not the right time, ask when a better time would be. Get a specific month. Put it in your calendar. Follow up. A lot of raises that get not right now turn into real raises 6 months later when the person keeps showing up and asking the right way. If they say no outright and you genuinely believe you're underpaid relative to what the market offers, that's important information. It doesn't mean you quit tomorrow. But it does mean you know your next step if things don't change. Here's what I want you to take away. Negotiation isn't a confrontation. It's a conversation between two parties who both want to reach an agreement. Knowing your market value, having a specific number, and asking calmly and professionally is not aggressive. It's competent. You'll feel nervous the first time. That's normal. But you do it anyway. Because the alternative, never asking, is the most expensive silence you'll ever keep. Do the research. Know your number. Ask the question. And don't fill the silence. See you in the next one.